Okay, let's dive into this. Welcome back to another Explainer. Today, we're unpacking an absolutely incredible journey. We're looking at a deeply moving narrative called The Boy Who Had Nothing But a Dream. And guys, this one maps out a trajectory from profound, literal poverty to becoming a highly successful CEO. It's basically a masterclass in grit, resilience, and just raw human will. So, if you've ever felt like the odds are completely stacked against you, well, you're definitely going to want to stick around for this. It really raises this fascinating question right off the bat. Can one single sentence change everything? I know. It sounds like a total exaggeration, right? Usually, we think change takes, massive interventions, years of therapy, or just a sudden windfall of cash. But as we go through the source material today, you're going to see how one profound mindset shift, triggered by literally just one sentence, didn't just alter the course of one boy's life, it completely rewired his entire destiny.
Section 1. A cold winter reality. A struggle for survival.
To really understand the heights of this success story, we have to start by grounding ourselves in his early life. Picture a freezing winter evening in Chicago. The streets are blanketed in snow, the wind is howling, and most people are hurrying home to their warm, safe houses. But for a 13-year-old boy named Ethan, there was no warm escape. His everyday reality was just the biting cold and an empty stomach. Ethan's father had passed away years ago, leaving this massive void. His mom was breaking her back working 2 jobs, spending exhausting hours cleaning offices just to barely keep food on the table. And the harsh math of that situation? Well, on a lot of nights, there simply wasn't enough money for dinner. Ethan would actually quietly tell his mother he wasn't hungry, just to savor the heartbreak, and he'd go to bed with his stomach growling. Just picture him sitting by a dark window, watching those snowflakes fall.
And the hardship didn't magically stop at his front door. School offered absolutely no sanctuary. He faced cruel jokes every single day because of his old, torn shoes. While the other kids were walking the halls in brand-name clothes, showing off their shiny new phones, Ethan was shuffling through the corridors in shoes that were literally falling apart. And kids can be incredibly cruel. They laughed at him. The source actually notes that every single joke felt so incredibly heavy. It created this immense social pain and isolation that frequently made him want to just give up entirely. He was stuck in this dark tunnel, basically wondering if his life would ever actually change.
Moving on to Section 2. The Discarded Book, a Catalyst for Change.
Now, what's really interesting about this part of the story is that the inciting incident for Ethan's entire transformation, it didn't come from some wealthy mentor or a grand scholarship or a stroke of financial luck. No, it came from the trash. It's absolute proof that inspiration can be found in the most overlooked places. One afternoon, walking home from school, Ethan spots this old, damaged book lying completely abandoned right near a trash bin. He walks over, picks it up, and right there on the damaged cover, a sentence catches his eye. It said, "Your future is created by what you do today." He stood there on that cold street and just read that line again and again. Something fundamental inside him just clicked. It shifted in that exact moment. He experienced this really profound psychological shift. He moved from an external to an internal locus of control. So instead of asking, why is life so hard for us, which, let's be honest, is the voice of victimhood, of looking at your circumstances as this permanent cage, he started asking, what can I do about it? And this brilliantly illustrates how that night, instead of feeling sorry for himself, Ethan made a really firm decision. He swapped out self-pity for immediate action. He decided right then and there he was going to study harder than anyone else, firmly resolving that poverty was absolutely not going to dictate his future.
Section 3. The Relentless Grind. Fueling the Fire.
Now, having a mindset shift is great, right? But it's really just the initial spark. Keeping that fire burning requires daily, exhausting fuel. The sheer volume of work he put in over the next few years to turn that realization into a reality is honestly staggering. 5 a.m., he was waking up before the sunrise every single day. Daily, he was stationed in the library. Since he couldn't afford to actually buy textbooks, he just constantly borrowed them. While his peers spent hours playing games or scrolling on their phones, Ethan traded that leisure time for intense skill building. Over the months, he endured failing tests, he faced rejection, he made mistakes. But every single time he fell down, he stood right back up because he simply refused to break that promise to himself. And over the years, that relentless, compounding daily grind ultimately paid off. We're talking full scholarships and graduating with absolute top honors.
But of course, graduating wasn't the finish line. Not even close. The real world brings its own brutal tests. Ethan goes on to start a small tech company with a few friends, and investors, they flat out said no. Which, okay, isn't entirely shocking considering roughly 90% of startups fail. But while people around him practically begged him to get a quote-unquote safe job and just quit, he kept going anyway. Why? Because he had already survived things that were infinitely harder. He had survived those freezing nights, the starving stomach, and the cruel jokes at school. A no in an air-conditioned boardroom, that was nothing compared to what he had already overcome.
Which brings us to Section 4. 10 years later, the dream realized.
All those early mornings and decades of struggle coalesced into this one incredible moment. We finally reached the climax of Ethan's unbelievable journey. Picture this breathtaking scene. The boy who once slept hungry, the kid who was mocked for his torn shoes, is now standing on a brightly lit stage in front of thousands of people. He's the highly successful CEO of a massive company. Reporters are crowding around him, cameras are flashing everywhere, and they ask him for the secret to his success. Ethan just smiles. Remembering those cold nights and the empty stomach, he simply replies, "My life changed the day I stopped asking why life was hard and started asking what I could do about it." The source actually notes that at those words, the audience completely erupted into applause. Just a massive, roaring standing ovation.
Section 5. Your best chapter ahead. Applying the framework. So what does this all mean for you, watching this explainer today? We've spent this time analyzing Ethan's journey. But the mechanics of his success, they aren't exclusive to him. This is a framework you can apply directly to your own life. The core takeaways from the source material really boil down to 3 foundational steps. Step 1, keep learning. Step 2, keep working. And step 3, keep believing. It is absolutely crucial to recognize that your current situation, no matter how bleak it might seem right now, does not define your future. You might be struggling financially today. Or, you might feel entirely invisible at school or at work. You might be facing problems that literally nobody around you understands. But as Ethan's story proves, dreams do not work unless you do. You have to execute on these 3 steps relentlessly. I really want to leave you with this thought. Your best chapter may still be ahead. So what will you do today to write it? Think deeply about the insights we've unpacked in this explainer. You hold the pen in your hand right now. Don't focus on why things are hard. Figure out what you can do about it today. Keep pushing, keep learning, and go write that next chapter. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.